Greetings and welcome to the Lou Holtz podcast. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to talk about the Notre Dame loss, but as I predicted in that game, Ohio State was probably the better team, but Notre Dame was capable of winning if they ran the football and was content to go for it on fourth down. They got the early lead, then they got into a contest with Ohio State trying to mix offenses, and you couldn't possibly do that. But Notre Dame did finish second in the country. I know it's disappointing, but nevertheless, it gives us a good foundation for the future. I think that Coach Freeman did a tremendous job and is going to be excited about the season coming up. But with all the transfers and portals, you really don't know who's going to be good next year, unlike the pros. Now we're talking about the Super Bowl. The security of the Super Bowl is probably the best it's ever been. You know, they had a problem on New Year's Eve with some shootings, but they say that they're all working together. It'll be as safe as any place. And the fact that President Trump is going to do an interview with Brett Maher right before the game and is going to be in attendance brings even greater attention to the security at the Super Bowl. I have no idea why President Biden did not do the interview for the Super Bowl because he has such a natural audience. There'll be millions of people worldwide watching this game, and to have President Trump have the opportunity to express his views on a variety of different things. So he enjoys football. He's been to the Army Navy game, now going to the Super Bowl, which is really watched worldwide. All kind of Super Bowl parties, drinking parties, etc. But President Trump will be part of it. And I think it's a great move on his part. But then again, he doesn't need my advice on where to go. Now let's talk a little bit about this game. They took all the different specialists, analysts, and said, who's going to win the game? It was almost 50-50 between the Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, there's no doubt the Eagles have the best roster in the NFL. Their defensive line's excellent. Their offensive line might be the very best. They have the best running back in Saquon Barkley. They have a proven winner or quarterback in Jalen, and the list goes on and on. However, Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes, who just has a way to make things happen. And Travis Kelce has 97 receptions this year. So when you look at this game, it's really hard to talk. But if you want to know who's going to win the game, look at basically four areas. One is turnovers. Do you realize how important the football is? The team that has the fewest turnovers will usually win 70% of the time. And the football is so important, they even named a game after. So let's make sure we protect the football. The second thing to look at is cheap touchdowns. I think Jalen Hurts has 10 touchdowns of over 60 yards. Saquon Barkley has, 15 over 50 yards. So they're a very explosive football team. You can't let them score without really earning it as they go along. The other thing you have to look at is short yardage and goal line. To get down to the goal line and not be able to score a touchdown is like reaching a par 5 and 2 and 5 putting it. You have great 2 shots, but you have nothing to show for it. Yeah, you had some success, but nothing to show for it. So that's why goal line and short yardage is so important. And the penalties. The penalties are going to be very, very important. I think it's basically unfair for everybody to come out and say that the officiating is favor Kansas City because now the officials will bend over backwards to make sure they don't. There's no doubt about it that Kansas City has been the benefit of some very good officiating, but they haven't made many penalties themselves on pass interference, things like that, big yardage plays. They excel in doing it. But are the officials going to bend over backwards? Not because they're dishonest, but because they want to make sure that they aren't showing favoritism. And the last thing to watch is the kicking game. 1 out of every 6 plays in a football game is some form of a kick. And too many times we take it for granted. That's the time people run to the refrigerator to get a drink or something like that. The kicking game is so critical, whether it be in coverage or return or a missed field goal or a mixed extra point. The list goes on and on. So those are the areas you want to watch. Now, this game, it'll really be an excellent game. Two very balanced teams, and I think without a doubt, two best football teams. They've had 2 weeks to prepare. Now, I want to tell you, when you have a lot of time to prepare, you have to make sure that you use that time wisely. The first week, in preparation for the Super Bowl, you prepare your game plan. You teach the things you have to do on offense and defense. You do the fundamentals. Once you get to the Super Bowl, you're going to get an awful lot done. There's too many interviews, too many outside influences that keep you from getting the things done. So by the time you get to the Super Bowl, 1 week before the game, you have to have everything in place. Now you just have to make sure that your players are ready on the proper time. And there'll be ebbs and flows in this game. It'll be a 60-minute game. Everything goes back and forth as you look along, and it's a team that makes the best adjustment. Now let's look at Kansas City. They're trying to be the first team to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. And that's very difficult because the teams are always very balanced like this one. Patrick Mahomes is really a tremendous quarterback. He's a winner. He makes things happen. And, of course, it helps to have Travis Kelce, the tight end, who has 97 receptions this year. Now, granted, they're only 8, 9-yard gains, but they're always critical, usually for first down. But he is a real threat. You have to adjust your defensive game plan to him. Philadelphia has a much better defense this year than they had last year. I think the offensive line for Kansas City is vastly underrated. I am a little partial because it's being coached for the past 10 years by a guy by the name of Andy Heck. Andy Heck was a tight end for me at Notre Dame, and we moved him to offensive tackle. He wasn't very pleased, but he went in the first round, made All-American, and played, 12 years in the NFL. Now he's the offensive line coach and has been for the last 7 or 8 years and done a tremendous job. So I think their offensive line is vastly underrated. The Eagles have the better roster. We all know that. But when you look at Mahomes and you look at the great quarterback from the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, he's an excellent quarterback also, but he's hot and cold. They used to throw the ball the first 3 games, he averaged about 35 times. For the last 12, 14 games, they're averaging about 30. And that's a big drop-off. So they've gone from relying on his arm and his legs. They have gone also. The acquisition of Saquon Barkley has made a big difference in the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think without Barkley, the Eagles would be in this championship game. So it should be a great game. There's no doubt about it. And this is the type of game you want to just sit back and watch and enjoy it. After all the analyzing and thinking about it and listening to all the experts, I've come to the conclusion that my pick is the Kansas City Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes. I have great respect for the Eagles roster and their coaching staff for the great job they've done. But by the same token, you just can't possibly go against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Enjoy the game, and thank you for watching. Good luck to you. God bless. Go Irish.